Hey, Mongoose Clan. I am back. Let's see. Just checking a few things here quick. So it looks like my drawing tablet is going to be coming in on the 24th. I'm hoping maybe that the people delivering it will do it a little faster than that, but we'll see what happens. I'll still be choosing the winners of the raffle on the 22nd. All right. So let's see, are there any other updates I have for you guys? I am planning on, thanks for the follow, Chaos Sleeping. Nice to have you here. So for updates, right now I'm planning on doing some more singing on this channel in the future. There's a few things that I gotta kind of test out first, because I'm not super familiar with audio programs and such. But I did choir all the way from elementary through college. So I've been singing for quite a while, although it's been a little bit of time since college for me, but it's still been a good amount of time. Yeah, it was fun. In high school, choir was one of my top 2 classes that I took that I say I learned the most in. The only other one that really beats that for me was my German class, and which is weird because I haven't really used my German since, but I learned a lot more than just the language in that class. Just my enjoyment of language, how I understand language, it helped me, it paved the way for me to learn Japanese in college. And it also was the class where it was the only teacher in the high school that I actually had come up to me and ask to be in his class. And before that, going into high school, I had been taking Spanish, and I had a pretty bad experience with that just because the teacher was really bad. Nothing against the language. Like today, I couldn't speak Spanish, but I could understand it because I've been exposed to it enough. My sister-in-law comes from Ecuador, so I hear Spanish fairly often. Yep, that's exactly right. It depends on the teacher. And that's what was great about my German class, is that everyone was there. Not just the teacher was really into it, but that made all the students so much more engaged. and it just made the whole class a lot more fun. One of the funny things about that class was he had a squirt gun that would sit on the ledge of the little ledge that you have on whiteboards where you put like the markers and stuff like that. I don't know what they call those. But so he had this water gun, and basically whenever you would end up going and like falling asleep in class, your social studies teacher would throw red vines. Nice. That's fun though. I like that. But my German teacher, if you would fall asleep in class, you would get squirted with the water gun. And he didn't have to do that very much, thankfully, but there was one kid in our class that did have troubles with that. And one day in our German class, he fell asleep and he got pelted with the squirt gun. Problem is, after that, the German teacher got reprimanded for that a little bit because it had been so long since he'd used the squirt gun that the water had gone stale and the kid got sick. So he kind of deserved it though. But we had a whole bunch of fun times in that class, and yeah, so he was a very good teacher. He taught us a lot about German history as well, and just really gave us a passion for what we were learning. And this is coming from someone who, going into it, I didn't really have any interest in Germany at the time. I didn't in Spain either, or Mexico, or any of the Spanish-speaking countries, but the reason I had taken Spanish is because my parents were like, oh, everybody takes Spanish in America. You got to take Spanish. And so I did, but then I transferred to German because he asked me to. And I'm glad I did. All right, sounds good. Have a good time at work. Thanks for coming. So, yeah, it's been an interesting experience since then. The choir, though, the choir teacher, what I learned from him in high school is he was a he was a very good teacher. He probably could have been a college teacher, a college choir instructor. That's how meticulous he was. But he had the energy of like a high school teacher, and that's what was great. Is that he was really into having fun with the choir, but meanwhile he'd give us these little nuggets of knowledge that really were not high school level knowledge, but were things that we as students could comprehend. And it was quite influential in my future in terms of developing skills for not just singing but also voice acting in the future. And so it was why it's only the second most influential class though for me is because when it came to my personal experience, I'm going to change this song. When it came to my personal experience in that class, I felt a little overlooked as a student. I was a baritone, and at the time I didn't really have any outside vocal training, so everything I learned was from within his class. And when it came to like trying out for solos or different things like that, he really didn't give you all that much instruction. And I wish he would have done something where he would have the people sign up for auditions for solos and such, and then he would like have a time after class where we would come in and just do a quick little run through of the song, just to kind of, just for him to hear our initial impressions of it, or interpretations of it, and to hear back from him some of his expertise, and to say, oh, this is what you're sounding like, or you're being a little too dry in your singing. You gotta open up your nasal passages a little more or something. That I think would have made it more influential for me at the time, because I struggled a lot with my self-esteem, with fitting in, and I didn't really, I think I got one solo all of the years that I was in high school, and it was a very short one. So it kind of felt like I was cheated, but at the end of the day, it still was a very influential class. So yeah, German and choir were my favorites. But that was kind of my high school experience. But the positives of my high school experience, I did not have a great time at high school. I didn't have a great time most of the time growing up, but those are definitely some positive things that I look back on and I'm very grateful for. And I'm hoping, as I work on this channel and work on voice acting a little more and singing, and just kind of seeing where I can take my talents, I'm hoping that I can really do justice to the teaching that's been handed down to me, and do my best and help people enjoy life a little more, help people understand life a little more. That's kind of my ultimate goal, is to bring entertainment and to tell stories that specifically teach lessons. So that's kind of my thing. Let's see where we are. All right. Also, another update, the current the little, I guess, challenge to get to 400 today. We're now at 382. If we get to 400 today, I promised that I would make a little song snippet for you guys so you can hear a little bit what it's like. But there's a lot of songs that I'd really like to dig my teeth into and give a try. So, let's see, updates from today. I did say that I would talk about my health issues a little more. And so just for people who are interested, I'm going to have this on YouTube later. For people who are interested, the current situation I'm in, I'm dealing with leukemia. It's called acute myeloid leukemia, which basically means that the stem cells in my bone marrow are not maturing all the way, and they're not developing into the different types of blood cells that your body needs. Instead, they're remaining as kind of infant bone marrow cells. And that causes a lot of problems because not only are you producing less of the cells that you need, so that means less red blood cells, less white blood cells. You know, there's a couple of different types, so there's some different specifics to it, but in the basics, there's a lot of different things that it can affect, and it can also start causing other problems as well as these immature cells multiply, because as they stay immature, they don't really go off and do anything, so they kind of build up in one area and end up causing a lot of issues. So that's what I've had to deal with, and they believe that was caused by the previous treatments I had, chemo treatments and radiation treatments that I had when I battled lymphoma, which lymphoma is a similar disease. The difference is that it happens in the lymphatic system rather than like in the bone marrow and in the blood. And the lymphatic system is basically, to put it simply, what circulates basically your immune system. So it's a passive circulation. So unlike your veins that have blood pumping through it, thanks to the heart, the lymphatic system doesn't have a specific muscle that pumps it. So that's why things like, for example, Tai Chi or dancing or things that are soft body movements can actually be quite healthy for you, because that's what they do, is they help pump your lymphatic system. And it's so that can be really good to get that circulating a little bit every day. But ultimately, though, the lymphoma was caused by, as far as we can tell, Roundup, because I grew up in a rural area around a lot of farms, and all these farmers used Roundup. This was before Monsanto, which is the company that makes Roundup, was kind of called out, that they knew it caused cancer and all that kind of stuff. So, it's more understandable that way, but like ever since then, it's still legal to use Roundup. It's just now that Monsanto is legally required to put a warning on their product, which is absolutely ridiculous. I think that product should be completely removed from shelves, because lymphoma and leukemia and diseases like that can greatly affect people's lives. And for older people, it is very devastating. I'm lucky that this happened to me when I'm young, in some ways, because that means I have a really high chance of remission, which is basically, in cancer terms, remission is as close to you get to cured as they really say, because they never quite say that you're absolutely cured, because there's so many different things that can happen. But generally, in a situation where they don't see any new cells popping up, that abnormal cells, and they see that otherwise your body is performing in a healthy manner, then you're basically through remission, and that's as close to cured as you get. And so that's kind of the way it goes. And usually, once you get through that, that's a milestone, and a lot of people end up living full lives after that point. So being young, I have a much higher chance of success when it comes to that. But as an example, overall, the specific type of leukemia that I have has a 65% chance of survival. So most of the people that get it are over the age of 60. But mine's a special case because mine was kind of onset earlier than it would have happened in the past because of the chemicals from Roundup. So that's kind of how it's been going for me. It's not the most pleasant experience, but I've definitely had it a lot easier than some people. There's through the lymphoma treatments, I ended up going through radiation and chemotherapy, and I never really felt that bad through it all. The worst was before I got treatment. I had some issues that caused me trouble because the mass in my lymph node was in my neck. So it started to cut off circulation to my brain. So that's why they had to do radiation, because radiation was a faster solution to reduce the size of the cancer mass or the tumor. But had that not happened, had we jumped on things a little sooner, I probably wouldn't have had to do radiation. So, which is a little bit of a regret from me, but I spent a little bit too much time listening to my mom, who really wanted me to try natural alternatives rather than going with modern medicine, because she doesn't trust any of that. But so I waited a little too long, and that did cause some issues later on, which that's one of the big things with cancer that a lot of people don't really think about, is that afterwards, after the treatment, is it's very likely that you're going to experience some other issues because of the treatments. So, for example, what happened with the transition when I ended up being diagnosed with leukemia, that was caused by the treatment used to take care of my lymphoma. So, and the reason we found out about the leukemia was because my hemoglobin was low. Hemoglobin is something that you find in red blood cells, and it's very important for the transmission of oxygen throughout the body. And so I was having issues with that. I would get lightheaded when I stood up. I was very fatigued, very tired, to the point where it was unusual. And that's when I went into the doctor. They took my blood test and they said, well, we see some cells that we don't recognize, so we're going to send you to some specialists. So that's what they did. And since then, my treatment has been, the doctors that I've been working with have been very efficient. They've been very kind. So I've been blessed in that regard, of having very competent staff, very competent nurses, very competent doctors that have worked very hard to see that the experience I have now is the least, causes the least issues for me. So that's kind of where it's at right now. Is I'm going through chemotherapy again. It's a different type of chemotherapy to deal with this, and once basically the leukemia has been already eliminated, but right now they're just maintaining that so that my body doesn't produce any more leukemia-causing stem cells. So that's basically where it is right now. And thankfully, I was eligible for what's called a bone marrow transplant or a stem cell transplant, and that they also found a full a full donor for me. So a donor that matches me as good as possible, and so I'm very lucky for that. And so once that's all ready, then I'll be going in. They'll be doing a final thing of chemo to make absolutely sure that everything's gone, and then they'll be doing the stem cell transplant. Now, when people say transplant, usually it's something like you think of something like a heart transplant or something like that, something very invasive. That's not necessarily the case with stem cell transplants, because basically what they do is they're able to extract those stem cells from the bone marrow of the donor, and then they basically give it back to you in an IV, like you would, normal blood if you needed an infusion of blood. So for the patient, it's not very invasive. So it's that part of it. The stem cell transplant itself can actually be fairly easy. It's the what happens before and what happens after that really can be an issue. Because after a stem cell transplant, or any transplant for that matter, you have to worry about something called graft versus host disease. And basically what that is a situation where the donor cells don't recognize your cells, and they recognize your cells as foreign cells, and so they start attacking them. And that's obviously not good, especially in a situation where you're trying to get stem cells to make white blood cells and things like that, and have your immune system work properly. So that can be a big issue if not taken care of properly. So after the transplant, they have to monitor you for quite a while in the hospital, just to make sure nothing's going wrong, and if there are some issues that they can take care of it right away, because there are ways to deal with graft versus host disease. Most people in my situation really don't have to worry about it too much. But like, if it's, for example, a heart transplant, someone usually would have to take a medication for the rest of their life to prevent that, and basically what the medication does is suppresses their immune system, which isn't, it's not great and it's not ideal, but that's what needs to be done to give the person the best chance at life. So that's what happens. And but like I said, in my case, that's really not something that I likely have to worry about. So overall, the situation's looking pretty up for me. It's just going to be, it's going to be about a year-long process of me being in various states of tiredness and discomfort. So that's one of the reasons I started doing this. I wanted to do VTubing for a while, and I had kind of started delving into it before this whole process happened. But when I was diagnosed with leukemia, I knew that I wanted to spend that time on something useful for myself that was going to be both fulfilling to me and give me more in the future than what I had done when I went through lymphoma. Because then I had basically spent all my time in my room, and I didn't really have a support system. I didn't really have people reach out to me and get me out doing things. So I basically wasted away for a year, and that was not fun. So that's why I decided this time that I was going to do something about that. And since I already had started working on getting a VTuber thing together, I just decided to put all my focus into it. And so that's why I've been very active on Twitter and very active in the community, trying to be a positive member of the community. Because it's one of those things, you get out of something what you put into it. And for me, it's, that also goes along with my goals in life of trying to entertain people and teach people good lessons. So this is a very good place for me, I think, to kind of try things out. When it comes to the financial situation I'm in, that's a little awkward right now because I'm technically in a lot of debt, but I'm waiting on things like disability and Social Security to evaluate my situation. So I'll likely be getting some governmental support that will help with that, if not completely eliminate the problem. But that can take up to 6 months to get sorted out. So it's a longer process. So that's why right now I'm kind of stuck in this financial limbo of trying to see what's actually going to end up being the case. But on the bright side, though, someone did get me did save up some money for me to get a drawing tablet. So I ended up getting the Huion 22 Plus, or Huion Canvas 22 Plus, and that should be coming on the 24th. So I'm really excited about that. I'm going to start trying my hand a little bit more at art. I've always wanted to kind of spend more time on art, but never really kind of got myself to doing it. Every once in a while, I would start up a little bit, and to the point where I know that if I put some time into it, I could do some decent things with art. But it's just a matter of practice for me. So I feel like having a drawing tablet like that will be interesting, because I enjoy digital art, and so this will give me an opportunity to kind of play around with it a little bit. And so that's, I'm really looking forward to that, and to sharing some of that art with you guys and seeing where that goes. All right, let's see. Gotta drink some water here. That was an issue I had the other day. Because right now, while they're waiting for everything to get put in place, they're basically having me come into the hospital every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, just so they can continually monitor my condition and give me infusions when I need. So like sometimes I'll need platelets, or I'll need red blood cells, because those numbers are falling. But what happened to me yesterday is I started to have some issues where I was getting lightheaded and such. And usually for me that means my hemoglobin is getting low, or that can sometimes correlate with the red blood cells. And so I assumed that going into the hospital today that I would need an infusion of blood. But actually, it turned out that I was dehydrated. I hadn't been drinking enough water. So I was very low on water and electrolytes. So what it all ended up being is they still gave me an infusion, but it was literally just an infusion of saline solution of sodium chloride, I believe is what it's called. And that's just kind of the normal, like when you go into a hospital for anything and they want to kind of stabilize things, and and if you ever end up in a hospital and they put this bag of liquid there, that's what it is. It's basically just water and salt, and that's just to make sure that you're getting the basic. That's like some of the most basic nutrients that your body needs to function properly. So, and it's in most situations that's not going to be something that in any way would cause trouble. So, it's not like in other situations where they want to wait to see exactly what you're dealing with so that they don't give you something that might cause more issues. In general, having a saline solution is kind of what I've found anyway, more of a standard practice. Although I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical professional. That's just kind of been my observation and experience through my many experiences of being in the hospital. Let's see. All right. I think we're going to transition the stream a little bit. I've only been talking for about a half hour. Like right now, I could ramble on forever, but that's not really what. Oh, Hey, Nee. Thanks for coming in to say hi. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. Yeah, me too. I'm somewhat tired. Not so much mentally, but just physically tired from all the treatments and stuff that I'm going through right now. But yeah, I'm tired too. Although it is getting late here as well. Oh, thank you. That was made by a friend of mine, a VTuber known as Kero Gemu. She's a frog VTuber, and she did a really good job on this, and I'm happy with it. One of my favorite things about my model is the angry mongoose on my shoulder. I love it. I still haven't come up with a name for him though. I need to do that. Got a few ideas kind of rolling around in my head, but I'm not sure. Yeah. Yep, he is cool. I don't know if you can hear the music in the background at all, but that's something that I made years ago on GarageBand. I pulled it out of one of my old flash drives because I was like, well, I don't want to have to worry about dealing with content stuff right now, so I've got some generic sounding music that can fill the background. So that's what I did. But it's been good. Cool. I'm glad. It was this one was I basically took a bunch of samples that were on GarageBand and I just kind of messed around with them until I came up with this cool little song. Let's see. I was planning on going to watch some YouTube videos, but if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. It's like with the some of my talent. Well, there's I'm kind of what I would call a jack of all trades, master of none, courtesy of having ADHD. So I've delved into a couple of things. My two of the things that I think are gonna play a role here are like voice acting and singing, as well as my background with entertainment and linguistics. Because I went to college originally for film, and I minored in Japanese. And then I actually went on to study video game design for a while. So I've kind of got a broad experience of multiple layers of the entertainment industry and communication industry. But I didn't get any degrees for a number of situations, but despite that, I still took a lot of classes and I've learned quite a lot. So that's kind of why I ended up doing this though, because I liked VTubing and it was just kind of a space that I felt fit my talents well. And now, especially with my health situations going on, I've got a lot of free time because I can't work right now. So I figured, why not? I'll dive headfirst into it and see what I can do. So I'm actually planning on something I like about VTubing is I really enjoy just the creativity that goes into it. Kind of every day waking up and rather than having to be like, okay, it's going to be the same old day going through the same grind, I can wake up and be like, okay, what am I going to do today that's going to be entertaining, that's going to be fun for people. And I like it because it makes me be more active, mentally active. So instead of just kind of floating through life, I can think about different things to do, and it's just as much good for me as it is for I hope my viewers and fans, because that's ultimately my goal, is to entertain people and to bring them stories, lessons that help them understand the human experience. Because I've found through my own life that was invaluable. So that's kind of what I like about it. What I also like about it, what I'd say my favorite thing of the job is actually going on and watching other VTubers on Twitch and playing around in chat there, because I just have a lot of fun with that. I like being able to help VTubers generate a little bit of buzz going on in their stream, and it's just fun to kind of joke around and have fun. So that's what I'd say my favorite part of the job is. But also because I know how valuable that is as a budding VTuber, because it can sometimes be hard when you're streaming and there's no one there. It kind of feels awkward to sit there. You're trying to comment on things, but there's really not much coming in. So, like when I played Tower of Fantasy the other day, it was like dead the entire day. Given I did it at kind of a bad time, but it was just dead, and so I ended up for a good chunk of it just kind of playing in silence. But I still had fun because I'm enjoying the game. But it can be a challenge when there's nothing coming in to kind of give you prompts to work with. So that's why I also enjoy that, because I know that's helpful for me. But another thing that's been interesting is learning Twitter, because before VTubing I didn't do I had never been on Twitter, and I wasn't great with social media. I have social anxiety and issues with social situations, so I wasn't very inclined to that. But I've learned a lot just through some of the other VTubers in the community, and this is really the first time that I've been connected with a community in this way. I used to be part of like a roleplay community where we would do online story roleplays. My favorite were like fandom roleplays, so we'd play we'd make original characters for different anime. All right, yeah, thanks. Have a good night. But yeah, we'd play different characters for anime, and but it'd be like a lot of times what we did is we set up different worlds. So it'd be like, instead of, one of the ones we did was Fairy Tale. Instead of having the canon characters be there, we basically restarted it and in the same world, but with different characters. And the characters were the ones that we created. And so it was kind of like a sandbox, but with a pre-developed world. So it made it really easy to kind of jump into and kind of figure out. Because otherwise, you have to really flesh out the world yourself, and that can be challenging, especially for younger role players. So that's why I've found the fandom role plays to be so accessible to so many different people. But that's also why people who run role plays like that need to be responsible in moderating things, because you can get situations where you have minors that are role playing with you, and depending on the places you are, that might not be a good thing, or you might need to keep track of what some of the other some of the other role players are doing. So like the site that I role played on was it was a role play server, or a role play forum. It was like a mega forum because it allowed you to post your own kind of like semi forums in a way. But the situation there was that everything had to be family friendly, or like PG-13 as we would put it. Like you could have romance and stuff like that, but you couldn't have anything that would have been not safe for work or anything like that. And so that made it a little easier, because that was right in the rules of the forum site. And so it would be really easy if you ever had any issues like that. You didn't really have to do anything on your own as a role-play moderator. You could just contact the people that run the site and be like, hey, this is happening. I need this person. I need this person dealt with. And so that made it a little easier. But like when I've done Discord role plays before as well, and that can be an issue, where you have Discord role plays that are either they're Discord role plays that are 18 plus, or and then you would get minors trying to get in, and that's obviously a problem for all sorts of reasons. But there's not really a whole lot that you can do until you figure out that they're a minor. So that's one situation that can happen. But the other situation that happened far more often was where we had role plays that were family-friendly role plays, and we'd have minors, and then we'd have someone that would try and contact these minors in very creepy ways, and that happened to us a number of times, and it's not fun having to address those sorts of situations, but it's something that you really have to jump on as soon as you hear about it, because the thing is with the people that do stuff like that, someone's reported him, but you don't know how many people he's talking to, or he or she is talking to, and you don't know the whole situation, so you want to jump on it as soon as possible. And but the other part of it too is you wonder about what doesn't get reported, and So that's another part. But we would also get like Discord raids. We had one time where we had a Discord raid on one of our roleplay servers. I think it was a Bleach roleplay, where somebody came in, and it was a family-friendly server. It was a family-friendly server with an NSFW section. So like some of the older players had this separate section that they could go to if they were 18 or over. But yeah, the raid came on the main chat and just started spamming like hentai and stuff like that. And it was one of those situations. I wasn't a moderator of that role play at the time, but I happened to be up, and it was late at night, and all of the other moderators were asleep. And so when this happened, I was just on there chatting with another RPer, and this raid came in, and there were a few things that I could do, but I ended up, trying my best to get a hold of the moderators to take care of it as quickly as possible, because it was a mess. Thanks for the follow, Crystal Cupid. Nice to see ya. So right now I'm just talking about role-playing and how I did online role-plays. So like I would do a lot of fandom role-plays. So like I did Fairy Tail, Soul Eater, Bleach were 3 of my favorites. And it was a fun time. We had the Soul Eater RP was actually one that I started. I didn't run it. I ended up handing it off to someone else because I had some issues with OCD, and I had to step back. But the roleplay itself ended up lasting for like 5 years, so it was a really long-running roleplay. But the Fairy Tail one, that one holds a special place in my heart because basically a bunch of my friends from college, we all got together and we joined this Fairy Tail roleplay. And originally, basically what the situation was is it was an alternate universe. So it was the same world, but new characters. And what ended up happening is me and all my friends joined the guild Lamia Scale, and Lamia Scale kind of became the main guild of the roleplay, just because we were the only ones kind of on this forum that knew each other, and so we would like plan big things beforehand about what we were gonna do, and then we'd do these big collaboration posts. And there were so many opportunities through that for other people to interact with us that we kind of ended up becoming I forget what they called it, but the group that Natsu went with Urza and Gray. And so like I ended up playing a character that was called Aiden Strom, and he was one of these guys where he looked kind of the part of a like he had this big fedora on, he wore this kind of yellow trench coat. You would choose Sabretooth? Nice. Yeah, well, we had really cool players in all of the guilds too, and I actually had a couple of different characters in other guilds. Oh wait, you do? Were you part of that RP? was on a site called RP Nation. Oh, well, somebody may have. Yeah, it was quite a few years ago. But basically, this guy, he wore a big fedora and he had a yellow trench coat, and he was kind of this mysterious guy. Kind of gave off the air that you'd get from guild arts, but he was basically a storm mage, because in this specific RP, everybody was allowed to have 2 different types of magic. So my character had water manipulation magic and energy make magic. So, and what energy make was that he would, it's not like he would just be able to zap someone, but he would actually make things out of energy. Oh, thank you. Yeah, my model was made by someone named Mahito-chan. They really did a good job and worked hard on trying to get a look that I wanted. Because a few people that I had tried to work with before that kind of had a hard time figuring it out, because I was basically looking for a Celtic tribal mongoose sort of thing with a lot of just fantasy and like cultural designs and things like that. So they really did a good job, and I'm really happy with the result. And my favorite part though is the angry mongoose on my shoulder. It's fantastic. I haven't come up with a name for him yet, but I've got a few names kind of circling around. But yeah, so I did a lot of RPing when I was in college. I don't do it as much anymore just because of time, because I found later on, after I got out of college, I kept joining role plays, and then for some reason or another I would disappear for like a week, and then the whole role play would fall apart because I was gone. And so I've become a lot more choosy about which RPs I join and when, just making sure that I have the time to devote to it if I do join. Because I don't want to join and then end up disrupting an RP because I disappear. Let's see. I'm gonna take a drink of water quick. Yep. Yeah, RP has changed quite a lot. And it's interesting. It's become a lot more popular too, and a lot more accessible. Because I remember when I first started doing RP, and I would mention it to someone to talk about one of the stories that I was playing in. Most of the time when you'd mention that, someone would either they'd either ask you like, what, like D&D, or they'd give you a weird look because they think that you were, that it was something inappropriate, which maybe sometimes it was, but But when you said RP, they would think of like role playing in the bedroom, and that's not what what we were doing. It's like, no, we're just a bunch of young college students just playing out cartoons. But and then when Discord came around too, it changed even more. The Discord RPs I was in, I had a few good ones, but they could turn into a mess very easily. It's very hard to moderate one of those. But I also do D&D occasionally. But I found I like written RPs better, simply because it's the written RPs. Oh, yeah. Nice. Yeah, I think I've heard of that before. Yeah, I would encourage you to give it a try, to look and see if you can find a group to do that with, because it's a fun time. It's really nice just to have a bunch of people to get together and you just kind of have fun and you go through a little campaign and kind of role play these characters. A character right now that I've been bringing to a lot of campaigns his name is Ocean Triskelion, and the way I describe him to people is that he's basically Jason Statham if he were an elf. So if you think just like this really gruff elf that just doesn't give a shit, that's what we did, or that's what I did, and I have been having a lot of fun with that character. Yeah. But the big difference, why I tend to prefer written role plays. Hey, Patricia Blackberry, thanks for the follow. But the reason I like written role plays is that there's more character development. When you're in a D&D campaign, you don't do as much of that. You can, but generally, people don't want to waste too much time and hold things back, because sometimes you get campaigns that can last really long and then everybody gets tired. Like we had one a couple of days ago where I was doing an online campaign for D&D, and we were supposed to start at 1:30, but we ended up, because we had this one player that just was doing a whole bunch of shit that slowed everything down. The campaign ended up not ending until 10 o'clock at night, and by that point I was actually having a bit of mania going on, just because I was so tired, and it was not fun at that point. But in general, that's why for some people it's hit or miss. Some people you'll hear like, oh, I tried D&D once and I hate it. So that's why you gotta make sure you're with the right group, or if you do end up playing D&D once and it was horrible because of the people you were with, keep that in mind, because D&D can be very fun, but the people matter, the people that you're with. The first group that I joined, actually, most of them were really good guys, and I was friends with one of them. I knew him from college, and we like I was in college, and so was he. He was one of my college friends. But he, when I first joined this group, they had a leader or a GM, and he was there for only 2 campaigns before he got kicked out. For when I was there, the group had been going for longer than I was there, but this guy was just absolutely ridiculous. He, first of all, he thought that people only took showers to wash their hair, so he shaved his head so that he no longer had to take showers. And so this guy absolutely reeked. And secondly, he was a neo-Nazi, we found out. And thirdly, this guy had an obsession with having every encounter end up having something to do with someone having sex. And none of the other players wanted anything to do with that. And I remember there was one time where he started GMing, and this one guy went, left the group for a second to go check something out, and then the GM tried to start an interaction between him and what he described as a very voluptuous German woman. And that campaign ended very quickly. But like I said, he got kicked out after 2 campaigns with him when I was there. Yeah, that's why it's important to find a good group. Sometimes, like, you'll have, you can find groups at game stores or things like that. So there are places you can ask around, try to find a group. And if you can kind of get in touch with someone beforehand that has already been in the group, already plays, and just talk to them a little bit, that can usually be a good thing, just to kind of, because then you kind of get a feel of what the group is like, and how they kind of run things. Because sometimes you'll walk in and you'll have a group that loves bringing in new players and such, but then you also have people that get very elitist, and then you walk in as a new player and they're like, huh, you don't know this? And it's like, so it can be very hit or miss. The group is important. But that's why it can always be fun just to kind of gather a few of your friends around and just kind of try your hand at it. They make some campaigns. Yeah, they are. Yeah, I'm also a gamer, an anime nerd. I'm also a music and entertainment nerd, and I'm a nerd for a lot of things. But it can get very elitist. But like, they make beginner campaigns, so like that's one thing that you can do if you're nervous about finding a group that you'll fit in with. You can always gather a couple of your friends around and try one of these beginner campaigns that they're usually a lot more guided, so that you don't have to be the most experienced game master to kind of have a game going and have fun. So they do make things like that as well. And but yeah, I would, even though like my first, yeah, they are, no problem. There's also, I don't know if you've heard of Japanime Games. They've made recently a game called, if I remember right, it's called Midara, but it is expensive. It's like, I think $200, but it's like a whole big campaign in a box, but it's designed to be played by anyone. So it's basically written like a beginner campaign, but it's got all of the stuff going on of like a really big campaign. And in the box, it comes with its own figurines. Everybody gets like a little booklet, and there's a bunch of different characters that you can play. And it was inspired by Final Fantasy, so it's kind of got a Final Fantasy vibe to it. But so there's things like that too. There's a couple of different options for you as a beginner. Like for me, like I said, the first GM that I had, although he was terrible, he was gone after 2 games, and everybody else in that group was great. Our new GM was great, and it was a fun time after that. Yeah, no problem. I'm always glad to help. I'm one of those people where if you would find me at one of those game places, where I would be very welcoming to new players, because if that's how the hobby grows. Oh, I do have to step away for just a minute. I'm getting a call, so I'm going to go silent for a second. All right, sorry about that. I'm back. That was just my dad. But yeah, there's a lot of different resources that you can find, and I don't know if you have my Twitter or not, but my Twitter should be in my description, and you're more than welcome to message me on Twitter if you have any other questions. So, because I'd be glad to help out. I'm not a expert by any means, but my roommate is. So I have a good breadth of knowledge myself, and if I can't answer a question, I can always ask him. But yeah, it's fun. Nice. Yeah, Twitter has been very helpful, and it's been very fun to interact with all of you guys. This is actually that's kind of how I started this whole discussion on role plays, is that Twitter was kind of the first place where I really felt connected with a group, and the only exception I was making was when I did role plays for a while. But the difference then is like it didn't feel as connected as it feels now with like the VTubers and such like that. So it's been interesting. And it's great just to meet so many wonderful people too. But yeah, I've been really impressed with how helpful people have been, and that's why I also try to go out of my way as best I can to help others and to be a positive member of the community, especially because I'm not able to work right now, so I've got a lot of free time. So for me, that's ends up being a good chunk of my day, is just kind of scrolling through Twitter and finding, positive ways to be part of the community. But it seems weird, but for me, in terms of investing in this kind of career, I find that's an important piece to it. The more you put into it, the more you'll get out of it. So, yeah. In the future, I'm planning on doing like some singing, maybe some karaoke streams. But it'll be a bit yet for that, because I need to kind of get familiar with some songs again. But that's one of my plans. I'll be doing gaming streams, and I'm just a variety streamer. One of the other things I really like to do is fake martial arts breakdowns, which I find it's just a fun time, because I have a background in martial arts. I'm not a black belt or anything like that, but yeah, make sure to let me know when you start streaming, because then I'll jump in and say hi too. But that'll be great. But yeah, like I was saying with martial arts, I'm no expert, but I know enough to be able to look at like these Bushido compilations and kind of make comments on what's being done wrong and things like that. But one of the things that I find interesting is that a lot of the people that post these fake martial arts videos, sometimes they don't know anything about martial arts themselves, and they look at something and it looks silly, and so they post it as fake martial arts. But then when somebody who knows martial arts looks at it, then they're like, okay, I get why this looks silly, but they do this for a reason. And but then a lot of times too, it's just fake martial arts. So it's very entertaining, and I overanalyze things sometimes, but it's just fun just to kind of critically look at something and give my opinion on it. Be a little martial arts snob. But so that's something I enjoy. I also do gaming. There's like every Monday, there's a group that I usually do game nights with. So that's something that I've been doing. Yeah, it's even for me, like my knowledge of martial arts is more theoretical than practice, because like I have practiced martial arts, but when it comes to like some of these more complex moves that people do, I just haven't trained any of that. Most of the stuff that I have trained have been more basic, straightforward sort of stuff. So like, if I ended up in a situation where there was a fight, I would have the tools that I need to reasonably be able to defend myself, but I wouldn't really have anything fancy. There was one time, though, that I got to train with the guy that did the motion capture for one of the turtles in the newer Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle film series. And so that was fun. I actually lost a job for that. But that was not my fault. I had lost the job because a manager pulled a fast one on me. And then they gave me like an ultimatum the day of when I was going to this martial arts training session. They're like, "Oh, if you don't show up to work, you're getting fired." And I'm like, I already spent $80 on this. The benefits at the movie theater that I worked at were getting worse and worse, so I'm just like, screw you. But it was a fun time though, and I ended up, after that, the next job I got was at a gas station, and that was one of my favorite jobs. That's actually where I started learning Japanese, was working at this gas station when I was behind the counter and there's nobody in the store. I had flashcards of Japanese words and stuff, and I just studied that there. And that was kind of the precursor for me when I went into college to minoring in Japanese. So that was, and at the time, the gas station actually paid decently. It paid like $9 an hour, which back then was more reasonable than it would be today. But it was, it helped me pay my way through college, and it was a very relaxing job. And it wasn't like we were always just sitting around being bums, because there's still a lot of stuff you got to do in a gas station to keep things clean and to keep things stocked. But there's a lot of different tasks, and so every day there's a little something different to do, and there's also plenty of time to just kind of think about things. And so that's why I liked it a lot. But then after that, I ended up working at a Home Depot for a while. By far the best paying job that I had at the time, and the employees were great, so the people I worked with were great. Bye, Patricia. Have a good one. It's great to have you here. So the people that I worked with at Home Depot were great, but I really hated working there. I'm not a handyman sort of person. And they had me in the lumber department, and I was just like, I don't care about this. Hi, Luna. Welcome. Thanks for joining. But yeah, I was just like, I don't care about wood. And like, so they put me in the lumber department, and so you get people coming up asking all these specific questions about wood, and it was just like, yeah? Well, thank you for joining us. But yeah, I ended up learning a lot about wood, but it was every day, it was just, why am I here? And so eventually I left that job, went back to college for a little bit, and then that's when the whole pandemic happened. And we ended up going to, I ended up having to go to work at Amazon for a while to put away some money. And I don't recommend going there, but it was not a pleasant experience. But yeah, now, like I said, is that I'm because of health situations, I can't work, so I decided to dive headfirst into VTubing and see what I could do. Hey, thanks for the follow, Ladybug. Got us, Ladybug. Nice to see ya. We were just talking about like places that I worked. Yeah, Amazon is a stressful job. I don't want to say too much because they make you sign some sort of agreement, and so like I can't say much for like 5 years. But yeah, it was not a pleasant experience. But one of the things that I did like, though, is that I got paid decently, and I won't, oh yeah, peak season sucked. And it was actually after peak season that I ended up getting let go, although they say I quit, which I did not, but that was a whole thing, and so then I couldn't get unemployment. But yeah, that's corporations for you. But yeah, I worked in a fulfillment center, so I was one of the people that packed boxes. And I ended up getting very fast at that. But yeah, it was not a great experience, but I had made more money than I ever had before in my life, so that part was nice. But it still wasn't enough to really put anything away, but it was enough for me to have some spending money during the week, which, so I could, like every weekend on Fridays, there's a bar that I go to, although right now I don't really go to it, but generally I go to this bar it's like nerd themed, gaming themed, stuff like that, and it has it allows you to bring in your own board games, and they have board games there. So it's basically every Friday there's a group that goes there and plays board games. And there's so many people in the group now that you'll have like 5-6 different games going, and so anybody can just kind of walk in and be like, okay, what sort of game am I feeling like tonight? And you'll find some other people to play it with you. So, like sometimes you come in and you want to play a really intense game, and you got a group that'll play Terraforming Mars with you or something. Another night you come in and you just want to play a social game, and you got Cards Against Humanity table and stuff like that. So it was a fun fun experience. But there, I had a signature drink, or I have a signature drink there. That is basically, it's Jack Daniel's Tennessee Fire, which is a whiskey mixed with Sprite. So the Tennessee Fire gives it a spicy, cinnamony flavor, and the Sprite gives it some fizz, and some lime flavor as well. And it tastes wonderful. I love it. A lot of other people can't understand, don't understand that, how I can stand it, but I love it. And but the the name, what we named it, wasn't very appetizing because it doesn't look the best, and you'll understand why when you hear the name. I've tried a fireball, I think, but I don't remember when I did. I don't remember what it was like. So I'll have to do that again sometime soon. But yeah, the name of the signature drink that I would always have was called Ewok Piss, because for all the signature drinks that they have there, they gotta have like a nerdy name for it. And so that's the nerdy name we came up with, was Ewok Piss, because it's just yellow like piss. Yeah, I'm a straight drinker too. I have very high tolerance for alcohol, and my roommate is a part-time bartender, so he really likes, he knows a whole bunch of stuff about drinks, and he's always got some new concoction he wants to try. So I'm his experiment guy. Yeah, that would be a pretty good prank. But yeah, I actually did have someone one night when I came up with that, they looked at it and like, dude, what are you drinking? But yeah, so I'm my friend's experiment guy, so he can throw me literally anything, and I'll be able to tell him if, like, yeah, people aren't gonna like that, or yeah, it's pretty good. But when it comes to me, I can drink almost anything and appreciate something out of it. Maybe not straight absinthe, but my friend tried that once. Let's see. I had a best friend like that. We had jungle juice, fully loaded, but not a bartender. He worked at Bevmo. What's Bevmo? Yeah, I've had absinthe is really good mixed with other drinks. Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Absinthe is good mixed with other drinks, but it's like 100 and some, like, oh shoot, I forget what the proof is on it, but it's a really high proof alcohol. So just taking it straight, it's not pleasant. Thanks for the follow. But yeah, drinking it straight isn't pleasant, but it can be done. Do not do it in large quantities, though. That is not safe. My friend ended up doing a straight shot of absinthe, and that was for one night we were playing a drinking game where it was Wheel of Fortune on the Switch, and basically that's kind of a thing we do here a lot of times when we have friends over, is we play that game, and whenever you go bankrupt, you have to take a penalty shot. And that night we had kind of run out of things that would be penalty shots, and he went bankrupt, so he decided to take a shot of straight absinthe, and he regretted it right afterward. He kept it down, though, but he was not feeling great. Yeah. I also had I have a friend who whenever he drinks tequila, he ends up having to go run to the bathroom because he has to throw it up. He just can't hold his tequila. And he got married, and at the wedding reception, I went down, I was down by him, and the guys of the wedding party had been all gathered around, and they decided they were going to all take a shot of tequila. And so they did, and so did my friend. And as they're doing that, the DJ announced that it was time for the dance, the bride and groom's dance. This kid goes running to the bathroom and disappears for like 10 seconds and comes walking out of the bathroom with the most composure I've ever seen out of a man before. And he went out, he did the dance with his wife, and had no issues, and I was impressed. Like, that man has priorities. So, but yeah, it's I've had a lot of fun stories with people doing silly things. For a long time, I actually didn't drink. But then when I ended up moving out of my parents' house, and then I started drinking a little bit. No, I haven't done a movie drinking shot game. That's something that I might try to do. I might try to do a shot game of some sort sometime on this channel, because I think that'd be fun. But that probably won't happen for at least a year because of the health issues that I'm dealing with right now. I can't. I kind of need to stay away from alcohol. I can have one drink every once in a while. Like last night, I had a glass of Glenmorangie Scotch, but I can't take shots and shots of stuff. So the medical situation I'm dealing with, it's called Acute Myeloid Leukemia, but it's in terms of the situation that I'm in right now, I'm in a very good position, and my treatment's been going very well, and they've got a stem cell transplant for me with a full donor. So, or a full match donor. So, everything so far is going great, and well, in terms of how the treatment is going, I don't always feel great, but in terms of what needs to be done, it's going pretty much exactly how it needs to. Yeah. Also, welcome, Fake Jaybird. It's fun. It's been fun though, being able to. Here, I'm gonna just realize my audio is. I don't know how my music got. Yeah, I just noticed that I don't know what happened, my audio, went up above my I had it set on 20 decibels, but somehow it jumped up. Yeah. Yeah, it had a mind of its own. I don't know, I might have bumped something and made that happen, but sorry about that, guys. I noticed when I looked over and I saw it going into the red, and I'm like, oh no. All right, that's fine. We're glad to have you here. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Alcohol wanted to, or the music wanted to party too. But yeah. So the health situation so far is looking really good. But for me, the hardest part is actually like the isolation, not really being able to go out as much, simply because I get fatigued a lot more easily, and because because since right now my white blood cell count is really low, I need to be really careful with who I interact with and kind of trying to stay more isolated, which isn't fun as a 28-year-old single guy. I can't go out on the weekends and try to meet new people and you know, as I would like to do, so I'm stuck working with dating apps, which are notoriously bad. But excuse me. But yeah, it was so that's a little annoying. But it'll just be like a year of that, and then I'll or less. It could be a little less, but a year is like the long estimate of kind of how long I'll have to stay isolated for. But then after that, I'll be able to get back out into the world and do things. So that's kind of the biggest issue for me, which is weird because a lot of people think when they notice that I'm kind of down or seem a little depressed, a lot of them think like, oh, it's because I'm overwhelmed by the fact that I'm battling cancer, which I've never been overwhelmed by that. I guess when it comes to things I can't control, I don't really worry about it. Like, things happen, that's life. But when it comes to things like things I can control to an extent, that's where it gets a little more annoying. And when it comes to the value of the life that I have while I'm living, that part is a little more annoying when it's like, okay, I just, all I can do is sit here. So that's one of the reasons why it's been great to really get involved in the VTuber community, and because it's given me more to do, more to kind of feel like I'm doing a little more work and being a little more proactive about things rather than just kind of sitting around and waiting for things to happen. But that's also why I've started making on my Twitter. I started doing what I called SLD, or since last date, and so like right now I think I'm on day 188 since I've last been on a date, and then usually because then I just kind of have a little fun with like the situation, and just kind of make fun of the stupid situations that I run into on dating apps or whatever else. Like the other day, I had a dating app that it went where like I hadn't gotten any matches, but I ended up getting a message. And so, it's like, oh, cool. I got a message from someone. Let's see who messaged me. And it turned out that it was the dating app itself messaging me saying that they'd give me a free boost if I bought a boost. And it's like, no, I'm already broke. I'm not going to spend money on your stupid app that has never worked for me anyway. But, yeah. Yeah, it was ridiculous. It's like, why would I? And I mean, that was Tinder. I've been on a number of dating apps. They all have problems, and it's just either they don't, people don't talk to you, or it's full of scams, or all sorts of stuff. But every once in a while, you run into someone who's nice. But then for me, I always have the trouble of transitioning from the conversation to doing something outside of the app. That's interesting. It pays for the plane ticket to meet the date. That's interesting. But yeah, that can be dangerous for sure, and the scams and stuff on dating apps are really dangerous. And so when I see them, I try to report them when I can. And it's just, I also try to talk to others and kind of educate them on what to look for to recognize these scams, because it's just ridiculous what they do. Some of them are really tricky and sly too, but then there's other ones that they start talking right away and you're just like, okay, you're a waste of my time. But like I had one girl that was talking to me a while ago, and we had some great conversations. We talked about anime and stuff like that. We didn't have a whole lot in common, but it was one of those situations where it was like, this person seems nice. I'll go and grab a coffee with them and get to know them a little better. And then as soon as she got my phone number, she sent me a message back, and she's like, I've got a friend, and then she asked if I would take care of them, and that it would be $400. So basically it was someone that was trying to just hook up and get paid for it. And so it's like, yeah, that's no good. And it's just like, sometimes I wonder, like, why do people even try these tactics? Because, like, has it ever worked? And if that tactic has worked on anyone, I feel bad for them. But I know that things like that sometimes do happen, because what you end up with a lot of times is there, along with the regular people on the apps and such and the scams, you also have people that are on there that are just very desperate for companionship. And so they can, and when they're on there, they can be in a little more vulnerable state mentally, and they're easy to take advantage of. And so that's why that really makes me angry when I see stuff like that happen. It really makes me angry. Because it's one of those things where, like, I've been one of those people before when I was younger that would just, before I learned a lot more, that was, just wanted companionship and didn't really know anything about what sort of person I was looking for. And so, like, I wasn't going on a dating app and just looking at the bios and seeing specific people and being like, okay, I like this person or I don't like this person, because I was just like, I don't know really what sort of people I get along well with, so I just want to meet people. And so that is not a good situation to be in when you have scammers and predators and things like that. But yeah, I've had a lot of funny things happen. That's actually one of the other things I've wondered if I might try to do sometime is make a dating app account, and for the channel, and just like scroll through and look at the different bios and just find funny bios to pick out, because some of the bios that people have, when you read it, it's either hilarious or completely ridiculous, and I find it entertaining, but I'm not sure if I'm going to do that. If I did, I would probably try and set it up in a way so we're just seeing like the bio description, and we're not, because I don't necessarily want to like have people be broadcasting people's pictures and all that other stuff, but I think it would be funny to see some of the weird bios that you run into on dating apps. But yeah, I'm still thinking on that one though. Let's see, what time is it? All right. Well, I think I'm gonna call it a night tonight. It's been very fun talking with you guys. I'm very glad to see so many new faces and to have so many people talking. That it has been very, very much appreciated. You guys don't know how much that means to me. But it's been fun. I will try to be on again tomorrow. That'll depend on how I'm feeling, but I will try to be back on again tomorrow. Maybe I might do some reactions, some YouTube reactions. Oh, welcome, Soggy Sharks. Thanks for the follow. I might do some YouTube reactions tomorrow. Try not to laugh or something like that. Or I don't know, I could probably do like Among Us too if I could find some people to join me doing that. Yeah, it'll be nice to kind of see how that goes. But again, thanks for joining us. It's been great to have you guys here, and I think that'll be it for tonight. But thank you all for coming. Thank you for all the people that followed today. It's been a great time, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Later, Mongoose Clan.